Hi, so on today's video we will continue the deck build that I started on the previous one. On the last video we did the foundations, built the frame and then did the decking as well as put up the poles for the roof while we were doing the frame as well. And the next thing on the deck was to start building the roof, and for that I needed to start cutting down the 2x6s to make the structure for the roof. Okay, to begin with, I took the measurement between the poles on the deck and then cut two 2x6s to length and then made these decorative cuts to the ends as well. And on the previous video, when I installed the poles, I already cut down these slots for these beams to go in between them, so now I just had to put them on and secure them with some clamps, then measure and make sure that the poles were straight before then starting to screwing them down to the poles. And by having the slots on the poles, it made it really easy to attach these beams in between them, since you didn't have to keep them up, you just had to push them towards the poles. And once the first side was done, it was just a matter of doing the same to the other side and then going and cutting the piece for the ladder poles as well. And on the back side, I cut the slot actually in a way that the side ones were facing out and the middle one was facing in, kind of thinking that then at least it would be secured to two directions, so then it wouldn't have that much wiggle in it as well. And now that the vertical pieces were attached, it was time to cut down the horizontal pieces for the roof, and for that I used the 2x6s as well. And to make them secure, I will be using these 90-degree angled metal brackets, as well as cutting these slots on the beams so that they would sit flush on top of the vertical beams. First I needed to mark down where the beams meet each other so I know where to cut the slots. And the slots are needed because the roof is in a bit of an angle. It's not just a flat roof, because we will get snow and some rain here as well, so we don't want the water or the snow to pool on top of the roof either. Slots also have a technical term to them, but I don't know what that is, and the easy way to make them is to use a carpenter square. You can find a lot of instructions on how to make them from online as well. And here you can see what is the purpose of them. It's just to make sure that the horizontal pieces sit flat on the vertical pieces instead of having a huge gaps in between them. And once I had made these slots to one of the beams, then it was just a matter of copying them to the rest of them. And as the deck is almost 3 meters wide as well as the roof, I will be spacing the beams with 60 centimeters in between them. And by making the structure from 2x6s, it should be plenty enough to hold any snow that would gather on it during the winter. And if you've made it this far in the video, it would be greatly appreciated if you leave it a like, and if you want to see more of these videos, remember to subscribe to the channel as well. And once I had all the beams connected, it was time to call it for the day. And here you can see also the brackets that I used to attach the beams. They are here just to make sure that they don't move laterally. And in the next morning I laid out the roofing material. We will be using this hard plastic that has a bit of a dim to it on the roof, because we do want to get some light in, but then just that it's not just sitting on a plain daylight the whole day. And we also get some cover from the trees that are behind the deck. But then I just started cutting down the 2x2s to length that I will be putting on top of the 2x6s that I attached on the previous day, and then I will be attaching the roofing material on top of these. And as with the 2x6s, I will also be laying these down with 60 centimeters in between them to make it structurally sound to hold any weight that would come from the snow during the winter. But once I had the end pieces on the correct place, then it was just a matter of screwing them down to the 2x6s. And then measuring and repeating the steps for the rest of the beams as well. And then it was time to put on the roofing material, and to attach the roofing material I am using these roof screws that have this rubber thing at the end of the screw to prevent any leaking through the screw hole. And on the previous video I mentioned that I'd be putting this framing to the deck, which meant that I will be just putting the same boards that I used for the deck around the deck to make it look that it's framed in between them. And to make it easy, I just screwed them down to the 2x6s that I used for the frame of the deck. And I will be doing the framing to the both sides of the deck and to the front part of the deck, but not to the parts where we will have the roof, as we are planning to make some walls to that as well. And then actually the next part was to start building the structure for the walls. I am using 2x6s to make the structure in between the beams of the roof. I will be putting one piece horizontally and then 2 or 1 pieces vertically in between them. And the walls will be 110 centimeters from the deck, which is approximately just under 4 feet. And to make sure that the pieces that are standing on top of the deck have enough support, I cut down some scrap 2x6s to put underneath them, which I then screwed onto the frame of the deck, since I will be using some metal brackets to attach these onto the deck. And just as I had managed to do this to the 3 sides of the roof section, it started to rain, which then meant that I'd had to move inside to do some other things. But gladly I had already planned some furniture for the deck, so I could go inside and start building those. So I started by cutting down some of the excess pieces from the deck, which I will be using to make 2 chairs for the deck. These chairs will be the similar ones that I made to the back of the house, which I already made a video about, but I will be linking it to the description below. And in addition of the chairs, I will be making a side table that will be placed underneath the roofed area next to the barbecue, and then I will also be making a side table with wheels for the pizza oven so that we have a place to put it on, and we will need wheels for that because the chimney that comes out of the pizza oven is quite high and we want to pull it out while we heat it up so it doesn't melt or potentially melt any of the roof that we have on the deck. But the table build is rather easy that I made for the deck, so I used some 2x6s to make a frame, which I then attached the legs that are also 2x6s, and then I had some 2x6s ripped half and then made a frame to the ladder part to give it some structure, and then used the same boards that we use for the decks to make the top of the table. And in addition of making a table for the deck and the chairs, I also made this small bench, so then if we have some visitors over, we have a bit more seating available, so we can have friends or family stopping by and we can spend time on the deck as well with them. And then as the raining had stopped, I moved back outside and actually started digging some of the dirt around the deck to make a space to put on some gravel, sand and then some concrete plates to be a step to the deck, and then for the sides we also dug up some of the dirt around it and then put some gravel to make it look a bit nicer. And once I had the furniture built and the gravel laid around the deck, it was time to start building the walls. And I will be using the same boards that we've used for the deck to make the walls. We thought that this is the easiest way since these are pressure treated, they don't need to be painted, it only requires some oiling every year or every second year on them, so it's rather easy and easy for the maintenance as well, so that's why we opted for these. And we installed them with 6mm 1/4 of an inch gap to each other. But yeah, now the deck is done, at least for so far, and we've been thinking of doing something to the upper part of the walls, but we haven't decided if we do it or not. We've been thinking of putting these trim pieces that are 40mm thick, so 1.5 inches, and having maybe 1-2 centimeter gaps in between them so that they would be a bit of see-through. But that's something that we can actually do a bit later on as well, so it doesn't matter if it's done now or not. But I really liked how the deck and the furniture came out. It's really nice looking compared to the dog bin that we had earlier, and it's really nice to have a designated place for the grill and for the pizza oven, and that they are in cover from rain and you can still go and barbecue while it's raining. And overall the deck is really nice to see that you can just chill there, and it's in bit of a shade but it still gets some sun, so it's really nice during the summer. And that's all for this time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.